What the politicians are going to do is tell you that there is a threat out there that manifests this in a horrific fashion and that we must go forward and conquer that threat. Saddam Hussein was sold as such a threat. George W. Bush may have ordered the American troops to war, but Bill Clinton helped build the case for war. For 8 years of the Clinton presidency, we were told that Saddam Hussein was the manifestation of evil. Bush did not have to sell this war. It was the easiest war in the world to sell. All you had to do is say Saddam is evil, and the compliant American sheep nod their head yes. And if somebody dare raise their hand and say, I challenge you on the facts, nobody wanted to talk about the facts. They simply shouted that person down and said, you are nothing but an agent of Saddam Hussein, sympathetic to the brutal dictator. Ladies and gentlemen, we went to war because of domestic American politics. That's the answer to question one. Why do we go to war? It's not about weapons of mass destruction. Domestic American politics, which now answers the question, how do we get out? Don't sit there and say we're going to win. We're not going to win. We already lost the war in Iraq. We lost it the day we invaded. Because in invading Iraq, the way we did, we disregarded everything that this great country stands for. America suffered a horrible defeat when we violated not only international law, but the Constitution that the men and women who wear the uniform of the armed services took an oath to uphold and defend by invading Iraq illegally without any justification whatsoever. We lost all moral justification and legitimacy. So much so that when you think about what's going on today, it should drive you insane, because America's finest are in Iraq fighting and dying in a struggle against people who are doing the exact same thing you and I would be doing should a foreign power come into our hometown and occupy our hometown the way we have occupied Iraq. But this isn't about national security, ladies and gentlemen. It's about domestic American politics, so let me give you a clue. We will not leave Iraq until which time every congressman and senator who voted for this war is removed from office in Congress. And that includes Republican and Democrat alike. On this issue, we must be Americans first and foremost. And there is a litmus test. If you voted for this war and you have not publicly recanted that vote, if you have not come out and said that was a bad vote and I will do everything in my power as an elected representative of the people to undo the harm, then get out of office. And if you don't want to leave voluntarily, we the people need to vote you out. But ladies and gentlemen, this will take 3 to 4 national election cycles to accomplish. So when are we leaving Iraq? 2016 at the earliest, ladies and gentlemen, and there's not anything you can do to speed that up unless you get off your collective butts and start voting people out of office, starting with the Democrats who voted in favor of this war. But no, we're not going to do that. We want to win back the House in 2006. So we're going to continue to give the stamp of legitimacy for the people who are responsible for the deaths of over 2,550 of our own American citizens, for the slaughtering of tens of thousands of Iraqi lives. That's why it's 2016 at the latest. Now we come to the other question. How do we stop ourselves from going to Iran? We don't. Because we haven't done anything to address the root cause of the problem. This is not about national security. Ladies and gentlemen, flash. Iran does not pose a threat to the United States of America. Newsflash. Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. We know this. We know this. And yet the government continues to sell Iran as the #1 threat to the United States of America. The national security strategy of the Bush administration, promulgated 2006, lists Iran 16 times by name as the #1 threat to the United States of America. And most Americans, even if they're overwhelmingly against the war in Iraq today, which they appear to be, support taking on Iran. Why? Are we anti-war? Have we changed our way? No. In Iran, you see, we're not anti-war. We're anti-losing. If we were winning the war in Iraq, if we had installed democracy, if everything was going peachy keen, it would not matter one iota to most Americans that we violated international law. that we carried out one of the most horrific war crimes in modern history. Because you know what defines a war crime? Not me, not you, the Nuremberg Tribunal. Chief Justice, who said that when you sit down and plan a preemptive war of aggression, that is the greatest war crime of all. And when the United States invaded Iraq, we planned and implemented a preemptive war of aggression. We're guilty of the same crimes that we executed German generals and politicians for. Put that in your cup and drink it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to war with Iran, not because Iran poses a threat, but because the American people have allowed themselves to be placed into the same trap of fear generated by ignorance. We don't know Iran, we're not making any effort to understand Iran, and we allow ourselves to be caught up in this trap of linkages. Turn on the TV. You see Israeli forces pounding southern Lebanon. Why? To stop Hezbollah. What is Hezbollah? We don't want to talk about what Hezbollah really is, which is a Lebanese Shia movement created in 1982 to oppose an illegitimate Israeli occupation of Lebanon. We don't want to talk about that. We call Hezbollah a non-state terror player linked to Iran. Therefore, to resolve the Hezbollah problem, we need to resolve the Iranian problem. And that's what the Bush administration wants. I always love the notion of non-state terror players when we say this, especially when we Americans say it or our Israeli allies say it, because it makes me wonder what Samuel Adams and John Adams were in 1775. Were they not non-state terrorists? And you're telling me that their cause, therefore, lacked any legitimacy whatsoever? No. What was David Ben-Gurion in 1944? Was he not a non-state terrorist? Of course he was, but in the mindset of the Israelis, he represented a legitimate movement of resistance. And I will tell you what, in the mindset of the majority of the people of Lebanon today, Nasrallah and Hezbollah are not non-state terrorists, but the manifestation of the legitimate concerns of the people of Lebanon when it comes to resisting an illegitimate power illegally occupying and attacking their country. And until we, the American people, recognize this and call it for what it is and bring a halt to this irresponsible Israeli violence against Lebanon, if we don't stop the violence here, it will manifest itself in an American attack on Iran that will bring down the world as you know it. Ladies and gentlemen, how do we get into Iraq? Complacency of the American people. How do we get out of Iraq? Overcome the complacency of the American people. How do we stop ourselves from getting into Iran? Again, have the American people shake free of this cocoon of complacency they've built. What am I talking about? Citizenship, plain and simple. What defines citizenship? It's basic, ladies and gentlemen. It's called the Constitution of the United States of America. Read it, live it, breathe it, and act on it. Because until which time you do so, this country, the greatest country on the face of the earth, will not function as the republic democracy that our founding fathers wanted. Thank you very much.